about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. So before the year ended last month, there was some drama as it pertained to Obamacare subsidies. And even though I think the system is a complete mess, Obamacare was a disaster for the healthcare system, with the exception of pre-existing conditions and physicals. But with the, non-temporary expansion of Medicaid and lack of work requirements and lack of there being a checks and balances on what is getting subsidized and the spending money given to insurance companies to cover skyrocketing healthcare plans that have ridiculous deductibles and copays. Obamacare sucks. Okay, I can't come up with a better term for it. I'm sorry. Not the most professional term, but in the medical circles, we say it sucks. Now, when we heard that the Obamacare subsidies were not agreed upon, Democrats wanted to kick the can down the road for another 3 years. Republicans are like, we need to fix it. But they don't have a repeal and replace. They don't have a fix yet. I had suggested, well, maybe temporarily do the subsidies for another few months. Or if you have to go year to year, another year. But we need to stop giving money to the insurance companies for their high rates. If a patient doesn't want to pay the crappy rate, they're going to have to offer plans that are cheaper. The government can't be giving insurance companies money for a very high cost health insurance. It's not a system that's sustainable. Well, Trump's attitude with all of this is, you know what? Let the subsidies run out. If patients don't want the crappy Obamacare plans, then they're going to go back into the marketplace and they're going to look for a plan that they can afford without the subsidy. Now, I wasn't completely sold on that because I'm like, are there any $100 healthcare plans out there? No. But when Trump said Obamacare is going to already implode, we're not going to cause it to explode, cutting the red wire, but Obamacare will implode because it's not sustainable. The subsidies are always necessary, and the subsidies aren't popular, and the money is getting wasted. Obamacare will go away eventually. And then we'll be replacing it with a new plan. Well, apparently we're being told that 830,000 Americans left Obamacare. They said 22.8 million people in the U.S. signed up for it, for an insurance plan as of January 3rd, according to the latest update from Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. A year ago, there were 23.6 million customers. So 2.8 million people are new to the exchanges this year, compared to 3.2 million last year. Now, even though the enrollment period ends Thursday, they're looking at how hundreds of thousands of people are saying, you know what? I don't want this plan. It's high deductible, high copays, and it's a crappy premium. Now, what Obamacare did for some is if you qualified by income, that crappy health insurance plan, the cost would be shared by the U.S. government. Well, if the U.S. government says, look, if you don't like the plan, we're not going to help pay for a crap plan. Well, now you have 830,000 Americans going, give me something else. If you're an insurance company and you could guarantee 830,000 clients, you might want to rethink some of these crappy plans with high deductibles and high premiums, because there's a market out there for you. And if an insurance company is smart and figures out how to attract individuals who don't want to buy crappy Obamacare plans, they could be successful. Now, Illinois extended its marketplace deadline to January 31st to allow more people to enroll in a health plan. But 4,000 people in the state enrolled, fewer people enrolled. Now, the subsidies are supposed to be a Band-Aid. But, and all these subsidies were supposed to do is during the Great Recession, which didn't end in 2009. It went way until 2015, 2016. What the Obamacare subsidies were supposed to do is until you get a job and you get on employer insurance, we got you covered. Well, many people haven't gone back to work. And many employers are like, I'm not going to pay for this crap. This insurance is ridiculous. Now, one thing I like that the Republicans have touted and recommended is where you're not solely reliant on an employer for cheaper health insurance. You could maybe go through Costco or go through Sam's Club or go through, I think currently there's the Chamber of Commerce where businesses can go through the Chamber of Commerce to get cheaper health insurance. Okay, that's brilliant. Because many people, they lose their job. Or their employer's like, I'm not going to pay for that insurance. We're going to get the cheapest, crappiest insurance because it's expensive. Why should your health decisions be made based on your employer? Plus, if your employer fires you, not only do you lose your job, but you lose your insurance. People need to get their insurance independently. And then they have more control over the pricing. They have more demand power. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to get a Costco membership or Sam's Club membership. But if they're able to do that with health insurance, now we're talking. And then you don't need Obamacare subsidies. And then our tax dollars don't have to go. I honestly, there's some possibilities here. And so, these subsidies, lowering ACA costs and things like that, yeah, they're nice. And I don't want people who have really been relying on them to be screwed over. But then an insurance company might have to say, you know what? Our billions upon billions of dollars that we make a year from government money, maybe we'll kind of transform that into some less expensive plans for the people who can't afford them. 1-877-Dolly, don't go away. Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020. All right.
We are back on Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So one of my listeners is a physician, and he wants me to comment on patient reviews of doctors. And how do I feel about that? Now, I think this was alluding to, we were talking about the show The Pit, and there's a couple episodes that are surrounding patient satisfaction. And, meanwhile, people are in ERs, they're upset, they're in pain, their wait time is ridiculous. And so there's arguments for you as a patient being able to express your discontent. You weren't satisfied, the wait time was long, etc., and for a hospital to try to do better on that. On the other end, physicians or even food servers or stewardesses or flight attendants or whatever, the patient and customer reviews have caused so much stress, have caused so much job insecurity. When many of the reviews are fake, that's a problem. And so I don't know what the answer is. I have seen doctors perform bad medicine to get good reviews. One of the reasons why, not the main reason, but one of the reasons why we had a narcotic issue with prescribing doctors, not from the fentanyl from cartel and China and all that, because that was the main driver of opioid deaths. But one issue changed in the late 2000s and then the teens, was the internet and Yelp reviews and satisfaction and star scoring for doctors started to become a big deal. And many doctors said, look, I'm going to give the patient what they want because these bad reviews are ruining business. No, but don't do bad medicine. We're seeing that with telemedicine, where doctors are so afraid of having bad reviews and then getting fired that, okay, you want an antibiotic? Here's your antibiotic. But what if they don't need the antibiotic? What if they don't? I mean, there's, what if they have another condition? Now, I told you I had a patient, you guys have heard this many times, calls up saying, I think I have diverticulitis. I want 2 antibiotics, for my diverticulitis. And I'm talking to him. It's, I think, 2021. It's around, still COVID is still surging. He had a little bit of a cough. He had lower left abdominal pain. I go, look, I understand why you think it might be diverticulitis. I want to make sure it's not something else. All right, because diverticulitis is serious, but this could be something else. I also want you checked for COVID. Now, he ended the call nicely, but I see a message in my message box the next day going, okay, this guy's going to be mad. Instead, he was really cool. And he said, doctor, you actually saved my life. I went to the hospital and they said, you were right, I didn't have diverticulitis. I had a renal vein thrombosis, a blood clot in my renal vein because I had COVID. Now, I'm not saying this because I want everybody to go, wow, Dahlia, you're a good doctor. But if I told somebody who wanted diverticulitis treatment online no, and to go to a hospital and get checked for COVID, 99% of the time they would put a crap review on me. Meanwhile, it actually saved somebody's life, that advice. And so what I don't like about, you need patient reviews on one end because there's doctors who could be absolute jerks to you. And those doctors have to go. Doctors with no bedside manner. Doctors making you feel stupid, incompetent, being racist, biased. I mean, if that comes up in a review where they're actually doing that, they need to be out of medicine. And many people don't understand how a doctor look. I told you, I had a friend of mine I went to school with, and I'm sitting there in the nurses station helping out the nurses because that's what I would do because I was really a suck up, and the nurses save your ass. And so I'm sitting there helping them at the nurse's desk, and the phone rings, and I said, I'll get it. And the person that was on the other line was, no. I'm like, excuse me? Doctor, no. And then I was like, oh, is this? And I don't want to say the name. And it's like, yeah. I go, it's Dahlia. What? Is that how you talk to the nurses? No, I'm just in a hurry. And I was like, wait a second. You were one of the coolest people in my class. And that's how you talked to a nurse, paged you? And you respond to that being grumpy? And it wasn't even in the middle of the night. And so I get that patients see a different side of doctors than we colleagues do. And I do think patient reviews and surveys allow patients to go, I felt like, this happened. There has to be a way for somebody to express that. On the other end, there have been, doctors doing exactly what they were supposed to do. And patients, using these surveys to punish them. So, for example, there's a case where somebody had heartburn and they were given antacid medicine over the phone. It was telemedicine. They were given, the guy complained of heartburn, reflux, wanted more PPI, omeprazole, antacid medications. I guess the doctor gave it to him. There you go. 5-star rating. The guy ends up dying of a heart attack. Now, I'm always aware when somebody says, I have heartburn, I always am aware, okay, let's make sure this isn't a cardiac issue. I can't examine you, but, when was the last time you had a cardiac exam? Let's look at your cardiac risk factors. So then I get a patient, and I go through the process that I feel comfortable going through. And I'm like, look, I know you're able to get this medicine over the counter, and I know maybe you could get higher strength online, but I'd really like you to get a cardiac workup. Well, this patient starts yelling at me. You're the worst doctor. I'm asking you for a medicine and you're not giving it to me. And you're not. And I'm like, well, no, what I want to do is I want to protect you against something that you might have. Right? You're over 60 years old. You're complaining of pain in the chest area. You might be right. It might be heartburn. But I'm recommending you get that checked out. Do you think I got a 5-star review? Probably not. There was a mom who called whose daughter was, I think, 1.5 years old, not even toddler age, vomiting really badly. And when I asked the mom, I go, now, when was the last time she urinated? She's like, she hasn't urinated, for hours since this morning. So I'm like, okay, so I need you to take her in and get her evaluated. I could send some nausea medicine, but you need to, and the mom just flipped out. She said, you triggered me. Now I'm scared. Oh my gosh, you have the worst bedside manner. And I'm like, I'm just, explaining what you need to do next with your child. Well, you could have said it differently. You could have said that my child didn't need to go to an urgent care or hospital. And I go, but we're not allowed to lie. That would be lying. And if anything happened to your child, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be getting a 5-star review either. So the thing I worry about is I'm starting to see doctors give antibiotics, give Tamiflu when it's not even flu season, because they're so afraid now. See, doctors aren't their own boss anymore. They have employers, and these employers are non-doctors and non-medical professionals. And so they look at a review and they're like, well, you don't give a lot of antibiotics, or the patient was mad because you sent them to the hospital rather than treating heartburn, or their dizziness. Online, or their acute abdomen pain. And then I'm worried doctors are going to be like, you know what, here you go. Here, I'm so worried about the review here. So I'm really mixed on that. Not to mention, I'm hearing from food servers that ex-boyfriends and ex-girlfriends are going online using their name, saying this person spit in my food. This person had bad body odor. They weren't even a customer. Now, Yelp and these places, they try to verify somehow if you were a customer, like Open Table. I think with Open Table restaurants, you can't just insult a restaurant if you hadn't made a reservation and actually went for that. But still, how do we know, you aren't complaining about pricing? Yeah, I told you I had a patient who had thyroid cancer. And I diagnosed thyroid cancer a lot because I look for it. And so there's an ENT who does really, really good, fantastic results, never hurt my patient. And so I sent the patient to that doctor, and she goes, I don't want to go to him because I don't like his reviews. I'm like, really? He lost patients? What were his reviews? Well, his reviews had to do with people getting a bill. And so she wanted a different doctor because of the reviews. Now, I told her I am completely fine with that. You know, you could choose another doctor, but somebody gets a bill from a doctor and they put a bad review. How is that reflecting on his medicine? 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So Harold asks, why are there so many white women at these protests? Why are white women becoming so liberal? And you know, it's interesting. I am a white woman. I don't know why we are seeing. You don't really see as much diversity in many of these protests, and we're also seeing, in terms of the Gen Zs, many women are becoming more and more liberal. Many Gen Z men are becoming more conservative, and it's even more so than with millennials. You know, millennials, interestingly, the politics, I want to study this a little bit more because I'm Gen X. And so for me was the Reagan and Bill Clinton years. And I liked both of them. And it really wasn't right left per se when I was growing up. And, if you liked Ronald Reagan, wasn't a bad thing. If you liked Bill Clinton, it wasn't a bad thing. Now, it was all right. Well, there's politics. But we had music, we had sports. I was a Dallas Cowboy fan. I got more criticism for being a Dallas Cowboy fan than wherever I stood politically, and I really wasn't that political because I had other things to do. And so one piece of this could be that, well, now politics is so much more important. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but the Al Gore George Bush election, I know it was close, but did we have Not My President and naked dolls and effigy when the Florida Chad results came in and then it went to Bush instead of Gore? I don't remember any of that. I remember some of my patients were upset that Bush won, but I don't recall the whole country falling apart. Now, it could also be now we see the news, you got your NBC Nightly News or your CBS Evening News or your ABC News at 5:30 p.m. And yeah, maybe CNN was on in the background or Fox News was on in the background, but now all you see is news. So it could be that, maybe you did, there were a lot of protests, and I'm sure people protested. Obviously there were protests, throughout time, but now we're getting more coverage of it. But it is interesting when you see that, like Renee Good, who sadly died, and may she rest in peace, but she moved to Minneapolis a year ago and joined an activist group. And I mean, look, you could join, you want to be a part of a Tupperware group, you want to be a part of a church group, you want to be a part of a, activist group, all the power to you, but just don't do things that are dangerous. And apparently her child goes to a school that teaches activism. I guess that's a priority over math and reading. And so this is something that she chose to submerge herself into. And you have every right to really care about the environment or really care about a cause. You don't have a right to intervene with an operation. You don't have a right to harass, officers. You don't have a right. I mean, you could peacefully protest, but to start barreling your car towards somebody, even though your intent might have been to get away, you left your partner in the dust and you try to get away as quickly as you could. You nearly hit somebody, or maybe she did hit somebody and he ends up in the hospital. Sadly, bad things, can ensue. And so it's horrible what happened. It's a horrible tragedy. But as I said, Jacob Fry and Tim Waltz and everybody in Minneapolis, any public official should say, look, let's get you guys to a safer area. If they really, really feel that ICE is there in Minneapolis to just assassinate random moms, then why aren't they, if that's really what they believe, then why aren't they moving everybody to a safe area to peacefully protest and let ICE work in the areas they need to work so there's no assassinations? It's all about, they want the riots. It helps draw, take, I guess, attention off the fraud, and it's a shame because I think more people are going to get hurt. It's a real shame. But to answer the question, why are white women, looking more liberal? I don't know if that represents the majority of everybody. I mean, I really think the majority of people are moderate. I don't really think it's all Republican or Democrat. I think the majority of people are common sense, saying, look, we want to protect the environment, but I don't think electric vehicles and mandating them is the way to go. Now, we want to protect a woman's choice. We want to protect the life of a fetus. But, do taxpayers' dollars have to go to this? Do we really need 1 million abortions? Why can't we look at, better ways to help these women so they don't have to face unwanted pregnancies? I think there's a lot of people looking at a lot of the issues that we have as it doesn't have to be extreme. The border. If other countries have secure borders, then we do too. Not the biggest shocker here. And I think women feel that way too. Yeah, what a lot of people don't realize is with the vaccine discussion, there's a lot of moms, there's a lot of women that would, ask me, why do we have to have so many vaccines? And I'm like, well, it's because, polio scares us. Meningitis is scary. You have a child die of meningitis. I mean, you pray that nobody else dies that same death and gets a vaccine. But yeah, there's a lot of shots. Anywhere from 50 to 70 to, I'm being told sometimes these kids get an average of 124 injections. And that's a lot of injections. So why not look at the science and make sure, do we universally have to have everybody get all of these shots, or do we do the essential ones, which a lot of the other countries do, and then leave COVID up to parent and doctor choice? Now, I mean, that's really not too extreme a thinking. And the funny thing is there's a lot of white women who kind of agree with that, going, I'd rather have some choice for some of the non-essential vaccines. So we're seeing hired groups, and I'd really like to see somebody do a study if it's the same groups of women in every city. That would really be interesting, because we're being told that people are being paid. Not everybody. I mean, I'm sure if there's a big crowd and something's exciting, you come out and you be there. But I'd like to see if somebody has a picture of the same people in all of these places. And if it's the same, As I said earlier in the show, you have thousands, tens of thousands of people being killed in Iran with the protests. But where are all the protesters for Gaza? But it'd be interesting to see if some of those women that were there for the Gaza protests are also there for, and if they're completely across the country, different city. So, women, when people say, well, it's women issues, and the Democrats appeal to women issues. I think the Republicans do too. I mean, I don't insult women, but women care about national security. Women care about education. They care about the economy. They care about border security. They care about criminals and drugs and fentanyl overdoses coming into this country. They care about public safety. Too, it's not just about environment. We care about other things. So you might see a lot of suburban women that might lean, towards liberal, but I see a lot of women that are also, look, it's common sense. I'm for common sense. Whether the Democrats bring that up or the Republicans bring that up, I'm for common sense. And now you're seeing with women in sports. You see these moms speaking out going, I don't want my daughter changing in front of a biological male. So I really don't think there's that much of a gender divide. I think it's a lot more split. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So in other news, Greenland has become, right? Well, I didn't really think much about Greenland because it was something we would fly over in the Arctic. Beautiful, very icy, but, beautiful country. And I knew most of my knowledge of Greenland happened when I would play Risk as a kid. Very strategic country. In the Arctic, allowing you access across the globe. But other than that, I didn't know much about Greenland until all of a sudden we hear that Russia wants it, China wants it, and then the U.S. wants it. Because if Russia moves into Greenland and China moves into Greenland, America could be compromised. And so Trump wants it, not only for that, but for also the rich resources. And what originally sounded like there was going to be a deal made, now Trump has insinuated that if Russia's going to try to move in, or China, they will take it by force. And I'm sure Greenlanders woke up New Year's Day, right, thinking, what are we going to do this year? Well, we're going to fish. Oh, we're going to enjoy the outdoors. And say what? What's going on? So Greenland's prime minister has spoken out about this. And he said on Tuesday that, assuming they get an opinion in the matter, that they would rather remain part of Denmark than become an American territory. The Danish and Greenlander foreign ministers are going to meet with J.D. Vance, Vice President, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio tomorrow. And Greenland is an autonomous territory of the Kingdom of Denmark. But Greenland wants to continue the peace that they have and, the status quo. As I've said before, not knowing that Russia and China wanted the land, I don't know much about what's going on with that, but assuming this was, manifest destiny or, there's resources, let's move on it, let's offer them a deal and take it, I would not support us taking Greenland by force by any means. However, now that we're being told that there are other countries that may move because Denmark may not be able to defend Greenland, and if other countries move in, just like they're trying to do with space, just like China's trying to do with Taiwan, and Russia is doing with Ukraine, not only could Greenland be in jeopardy, but other countries too that have rich resources. And what we might be seeing, we saw relative peace. I mean, we still had wars, Korean War, Vietnam War, Persian Gulf War. I mean, we've seen wars, but now we have leaders who are looking to improve their situation and improve their holds, their lands, and make a name for themselves as it pertains to their dynasty. I mean, why did Russia have to go back and go into Ukraine? Well, it's because they want those areas and they want the mineral rights and they want the coastal line. So Russia wants to expand. We know that. China, too. China wants to regain control of Taiwan. Is China also going to want to regain control of other areas? We think that everybody's happy and quiet but maybe not. And I will give Trump the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he's lying just so he could get Greenland and say, yeah, I think Russia and China want it. I think he does have, intelligence and sources saying this is a territory that could be at risk. Now, Greenlanders should have the ultimate decision. They want Denmark. Denmark doesn't want to give Greenland up. But what if we do have Russia move in and China move in? Well, if that's the case, I do think we could handle Russia and China. If they decide to, move in and take the territory, if Greenland wants us to protect them against them. But I really foresee that this isn't just about Greenland. I think there's going to be many other territories and many other areas across the globe that other countries are going to want to expand to and take advantage of and lay claim to or utilize. And Greenland, who probably thought they were going to be at peace for many more decades, now I think this year and maybe in the upcoming years is going to start seeing a lot of drama. I wish it wouldn't be so. But Trump does not want Russia or China occupying a country so close to America and occupying a country so rich in minerals. And so at first I was like, is he serious about this? I think he is. So what's going to happen tomorrow? Well, Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen and his Greenlandic counterpart Vivian Motzfeldt had requested a meeting with Marco Rubio after hearing what Trump had to say. And J.D. Vance also wanted to participate in the meeting, so he's going to host the meeting. And I believe the meeting is going to actually be in the White House. I thought Marco Rubio was going over there. I think they're going to be coming. And, if there is a deal to be made, I think America is going to make a much nicer deal than I think China or Russia would, that I wish this wouldn't happen. But if there is a blessing in disguise or a silver lining, we keep thinking that nobody else wants World War II, World War III. Everybody wants peace. I don't think so. I mean, we're seeing world leaders that want to expand, and we forget about Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un is dying to get back in the news. He wants to look like he's doing something. And so he might also decide to get involved in the mix, not for Greenland, but for other things. And I think we do start to have more of an expansionist attitude right now. And there is going to be unrest. And I do really believe we're going to see World War III in our lifetime. I really do. I don't want to. I pray that doesn't happen. But one of the reasons why I think we're going to have World War III is because people want war. Why did Hamas have to go into Israel and go into a peace concert and go into a peaceful kibbutz, murder, rape, behead kids, grab hostages? People want war. People want fighting. Look at America. Look at this. I mean, with as it pertains to ICE, they could peacefully protest in areas of the city. But no, they want to get into it with ICE. They're throwing things at them. They're cursing at them. They get edgy. It's interesting. When I was in school, I was told that every 20 years, there's a major war. And I'm like, really? And they go, well, look at the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, Persian Gulf War. Now, I know we had a very quick Iran war. But in terms of major wars, every 20 years, people get an itch in their pants. Or countries feel like they have to do that because then it makes them become more powerful, helps with their economy. Although the Russian ruble dropped, but for America, it got us out of the Depression and really helped our economy until we were booming in the 50s. And I'm not saying people are doing that on purpose, but it's a cycle that continues to happen. And so here we are. 20 years after the Persian Gulf War, we've had little mini skirmishes, and we got what's going on now with China and Russia. Yeah, I could see us going into World War III. I don't want to. I pray we don't. And I really don't want to see Greenland disturbed. It's really beautiful. But I also don't want to see China own it and Russia own it. Them being there and now having unfettered access to Canada? Oh, Canada will easily fall to China and Russia. So we'll see what happens. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.